Hello and welcome to our Products of Change podcast from intent to impact. Over the last 5 years, the brand licensing and retail industry has been on one of the most significant transformational journeys in its history. What once felt like a niche sustainability conversation has become central to how businesses design, source, manufacture, and hopefully grow. This podcast is about capturing that journey, honestly, openly, and from the people who have helped shape it. We'll be looking back at what's worked, what hasn't, and the decisions that have defined this moment in time. And just as importantly, we'll be looking forward to the next 5 years and what it will take to build an industry that is fit for the future. I'm Helena, founder here at Products of Change, and today I'm delighted to be joined by somebody who has been at the heart of that transformation within our industry, Sine Møller. Hello, Sine.
Hello.
Welcome. Happy 2026.
Thank you, and you too.
I'm so excited that you are able to join us today, Sine. For those that don't know Sine has got a huge wealth of experience that she's going to be bringing to us today, kind of really looking at how she's taken a bold ambition of what she really wanted to drive at the Lego Group within the outbound licensing team and showing us how she's implemented that, and which is just amazing. I'm also really lucky because I've known Sine for the last 6 years and we've worked really closely together as we've kind of been on this journey as an industry to see how we shape this industry for the future. And I'm just very proud to have been on this journey with you and continuing to be on this journey. And I'm just really excited to dig into the details, Sine, on what you've been doing at Lego Group. So before we do that, though, I've been really fortunate to get to know you over the years, and I know what a phenomenal person you are. And I always just love to try and understand kind of what makes you that person, kind of what is your history. So first of all, let's kind of just ask you, what books are you reading at the minute? Kind of what's on your bedside table?
Well, 3 different things because I'm a little bit of here, there, and everywhere. So one thing that I'm digging into is this visual collaboration, which is just an inspiration I found in a workshop I was at, Innovation Roundtable, and it's about illustrating workshops and actually doodling a little bit better. And you only need to learn how to do squares and circles and little people, and then you're set. So everybody can do it. The other one I'm reading is this Bringing Back the Beaver into the UK Nature by Derek Gow. And it is super fun because here is a person of passion who is like determined to put the beaver back into UK nature because it is going to help alter the waterways and put nature back. So he's a good, fun read. And then I'm reading The Demand Revolution because, of course, you're in business. Oh, you have it too. Oh, that's great. So how consumers are redefining sustainability, and we're slowly seeing that. And that's, of course, what the businesses need to react to because people are changing.
I love that. What an eclectic mix of books that you're reading, a bit of learning, a bit of happiness, and also,
Yeah,
it's people that drive the change, isn't it? And so,
it is.
having that book about how to bring the beaver back into the UK just kind of shows that the passion of one person can actually
Exactly.
really start to build that together. And I guess that's what you've been at the Lego Group as well, Sina, really. You've been that person flying the flag and kind of putting that infrastructure in place. To kind of, so people get to understand a little bit more about who you are, Sina, it'd be really good to go back a little bit before you started at Lego, which I know was quite a while ago now.
Yeah, 30
How many
years.
years?
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
It's quite phenomenal. Kind of,
Yeah.
how did you start at the Lego Group? What was your starting journey there?
It was a bit of a weird. I mean, I was a young textile design student and had always enjoyed making clothes, dolls' clothes for my sisters and for me, and that was kind of a bubble to be in. And then suddenly, I was ready to start applying for jobs. I was quite young. I had traveled a bit in Singapore and Malaysia, trying to get into the textile industry because that was starting to move into Asia. And going more for kind of Europe, Eastern Europe countries sourcing into. So I was a bit like, should it be sourcing or should it be design? And then Lego was hiring a textile designer. I was like, oh my God, what do a plastic company want with a textile designer?
Yeah.
And they were only doing these little sleeping bags for Duplo dolls. And I
Huh?
don't know if you remember those. Um, so I interviewed and I brought my Barbie collection, yes, my portfolio, as one does. And I had done like a weird portfolio. So I made my portfolio as an embroidery, and they
Ooh,
probably thought that that was pretty wacky. And let's have her as a designer.
yeah.
Um, so that was quite fun. Um, and then I got into this room. They opened it up, and it was a secret project. I had to stay quiet about it for 3 years. And I worked on Lego Scala, which was dolls and dolls' houses in this bigger scale. And it was wonderful. And it was like, yeah, creative work every day. And they actually paid me for it. And then slowly I moved on to other design tasks and then into merchandise because we were fixing the quality in our Legoland park. So I started going quite broad in industry.
Mm.
Um, and then suddenly the licensing department got married to the department I was in. And suddenly here was this whole wealth of partnerships that we were working with and building IP. And from there on, yeah, it went into designing and leading design and style guides and brand design. And I was doing Legoland parks and t-shirts one day and shoes and books the other day, and building up a design team. And then suddenly at some point we could start seeing the EU legislation move towards packaging and saying, I think there was about like 17, like 2017. And I thought, this sustainability stuff, I need to know more. I need to understand this, and I got to help our partners. And I've always been in the role of helping partners understand the Lego brand. And I thought, I can just do that with sustainability. If I can understand it, everybody can understand it. So I set myself out to understand carbon, um, circularity, cradle to cradle, and from there on, it was just one big long learning journey, and I've really enjoyed it.
So did you go out on your own to try and learn that before your job even entailed it, and then there was an opportunity to influence your role at the Lego Group?
Well, yeah, I was, for me, it was, we were doing style guides and we were doing packaging guides. So it started with packaging. And the Lego Group was starting to look into how we could transition out of single-use plastic back in 17, or we'd even started before that. And so I was saying, I need to make a good guide, a style guide, or a manual to the partners so they understand that they won't, left behind. And suddenly, we say we don't want these partners because they're not in out of single-use plastic. So that was my mission, and I'm really good at making guidelines and style guides and explaining complicated things, which the Lego brand can be and the system can be. Like the creative and modular system of Lego can be somehow complex if you're not really deep into it. But so I just took it as a challenge and thought I'll educate myself, and in that process, I can probably explain to other people what these complicated rules are
And
and
it's
visualize it better.
it's
Um,
amazing how you've done that, Sina, through. And I guess if we go back to that very beginning, so
mm,
you've created this packaging guide, but you're still heading up the design team at this minute. So
mhm.
you're the licensing in team. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you're working with all those partners and you're helping those partners produce packaging that's a little bit differently, that is in alignment really early on with some goals of the Lego Group. And then you fast forward to today where there's a whole team that's looking across multiple elements. Like
Yes.
how does that transition happen? How do you kind of influence?
Well, there
um
was a couple of people from our central sustainability team that was like, "Hey, we probably need to look at licensing. That cannot be left behind because it's also Lego branded products." And I was like, "Okay, I wanna help you create this strategy." Um, and then, 5 months later, we had created a whole strategy document, pitch, so to speak, to our top leadership and our board. And I learned a lot. And we got it approved. And I was like, shoot, someone's got to lead this. We better hire someone. And then my boss said, well, maybe you do it. And then you step away from design.
Mm,
And I was like, that sounds interesting. And but you got to put me to school
mm.
because I got to learn this properly. And I was hungry at that time in my life for learning something new. And I just thought, God, maybe my brain can learn this stuff, right? So I
So
was
when was that, Sina? So 2017, you start having these conversations, packing your guide, Anna how to educate through design. So let's do that with our partners, to finding your allies in the core sustainability team to
mm,
help bring this plan together. The plan gets approved. Maybe you lead it. Okay, maybe I lead it. And then at what point do you then go and get educated? So when, 2018, 2019, when was this?
yeah, there was around, it was right before COVID, I guess. Yeah, it was. So the first person I hired was also someone who had started looking into education. He was a designer, Mark Chapkins, and he was looking into courses you could take from Harvard, for Cambridge, so once something we could do online,
Yeah.
because we knew we needed to educate ourselves, and sustainability was kind of new for everyone. And my philosophy has always been, well, you have people who are very, very well um, with their work skills and their experience, and they need to add something new on to stay relevant. Like we all have to learn AI right now, right, to stay relevant. And I thought, well, we just need to learn this stuff because for me, sustainability is just another design challenge. It's an exciting design challenge. It's not, I don't see it negatively. And that's why I was just like, let's find a course that we can do quick. And we went and did the CISL course at Cambridge, which was an 8-week intensive course. And oh my God, it was intense. I think you did it as well, right?
I did that course. I think I cried every night.
Yeah,
It was so
it was
intense.
brutal
And
and
I was like,
broad.
wow. So I was just like, I got my husband to check everything. I mean, but you do feel very proud when you're done. And boy,
Yeah,
does it open up your eyes and kind of
exactly.
gives you the superpower to what you then need to go and do, doesn't it?
It does. And the way that the course was structured was that you had to go actually create a task that you were going to actually execute. And I thought, wow, it's Cambridge. I better take this serious. We paid for it as well, and so on. But I think I had one moment where I was like, oh my God, I've seen all of this horrible things we're doing to the planet and to people, social justice,
Mm.
and I thought we were so much better, and now I can't unsee it.
Mm.
And that not unseeing it was fuel for my passion.
Yeah.
It was really where I was like, okay, if I can push through a whole portfolio for a movie and get I don't know how many retailers together with my lovely colleagues to really push this one through, and we can make it to market in the right spot at right theatrical launch, right, we could also change packaging, we could also change all these things. It's just a design thing.
Yeah.
And then there was this one sentence where it's like 80% of the impact on carbon is made in the design phase.
Mhm.
And we know this sentence, all of us who's working in it. And they're like, it's true, because that's where we make the choices.
Yeah. It's really
Um,
impactful
so,
because also if 80% of it sits there, then an opportunity to change it is huge. It's not sat in this huge system. It's within the person that's making that decision there and then, isn't it?
exactly. And that's where it became for me, wow, this is just another design challenge. As if, let's say, I was running out of a material.
Yeah.
Now I only have this material and it has to be this price. And they said the customer demands. Nothing changed really.
Yeah. And actually, and Sina, you haven't, so you finished that 8-week course. And at that point, I stepped away and then I did what I'm doing within POC. You didn't step away. You've continued that. And you're
Yeah, I have my colleague, you Mark, he's such an ambitious guy, and he said, well, maybe we should do the post grad and the master. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds great. Because I could also see this thing that had opened up was just like, you go down the rabbit holes of, I want to learn about carbon. I want to learn about paper. I want to learn about materials. Oh my God, there's renewable energy, and there is carbon sequestering, and there is nature and water and biodiversity. And I was like, oh my God, I need to learn more,
yeah,
or else I cannot guide other people, right?
yeah.
I need to become an expert. So went in, then COVID hit, and we had extra time at home, and so COVID opened up again, and we were able to go to Cambridge with masks, and actually get to meet. I think we were on a cohort of 70 different people from all over the world coming in. It was wonderful to get um, people from the global south coming in with real problems. I was coming from a toy company, not real problems, right? Nice to do in principle, but plastic was one of the big issues we have to solve, and we were working really diligently on that in Lego. And I'm very fortunate to be able to also share examples of when you have the board with you, when you have leadership with you, you can really make a change, and when you have the budget.
Yeah, and you're a company of your size with the
And the company of our size, yes.
yeah, and you're now just so you're in the final the final
Yeah, I
furlong.
didn't give up at the post grad. I thought, oh well, let's just finish the master. And my kids have moved out. They're adult children, so they're like, it's my husband and the cat, and there was plenty of time to study. I don't know how people with small children they do it, but they do it.
Yeah, you just cry a lot.
And cry a lot. True.
So you're finishing this year, Sina. Will your
I'm
studies be over
finishing.
this year, and you'll
Yeah,
have your masters in sustainability?
yeah.
Wow. I mean,
So
yeah, huge
let's hope I
congratulations.
finish.
Come
Uh,
on.
yeah.
Well, and so I guess as your studies have continued, kind of parallel to that is the work that you've been doing at Lego, then with working with your partners. So when you first started this journey, was it just you in that team working with other teams, or were you then able to have a budget and put a team together? So if you go back to, when are we going back to, maybe what, 2019,
Yeah.
2020?
2019, we had this, actually in 2018 we had the strategy approved, and I remember I had our vice president of sustainability who was leading all sustainability work streams. We had kind of a central team, and then we had work streams out in the organization doing different parts of the strategy where we really needed to change something.
Mm,
They were then funded by a central budget and funded resources by a central budget, but also had to report in on a monthly basis and quarterly basis to the top management,
wow.
and extra KPIs and all of that. So it was quite administrative in those early days, but it was very exciting at the same time in uncovering and finding the data and
Mm,
figuring out how big a problem are we sitting with,
yeah.
and then actually attacking it in small bites of the elephant, because it was a big elephant. It is a big elephant.
Yeah.
But back then it was, help me. Your question was again. It was
It's kind
how
of
do we,
what then? How did you build that team? So was it
yes,
you and the central team, and then were you just
we
like,
were
okay,
funded by the central team, and then we hired in people that were basically a little bit of, here is one that's a data specialist, here is one that's good at packaging, because we understood we were going to tackle packaging first.
yeah,
We asked for a lot of people because we sat down and we calculated, if we're to do this project, it's going to cost these resources and it's going to need this.
yeah,
And then we kind of did a backcasting, and we made a plan already back then that said, if we get to here in 2030, what will it take? And then we backcasted smaller loops back to 2018. And then in 18, we had the first packaging guide in our hands. It looked kind of okay. And we had the summit where we had all the partners come to Billund in Denmark. And I remember we did 1.5 hour presentation on
wow,
stage with the VP of sustainability. We had pictures of Greta Thunberg and letters that children has been writing to us saying, Lego, why are you packing things in plastic? You're killing the turtles. And we're taking, and I'm not kidding, we are taking children very serious at the Lego Group and what they say, because we're a product and we're a brand for them, and they are a vital concern. Because if we don't care for children and the planet, we don't really have a business future.
yeah,
So I don't think any partners cried, but I think we managed to get them engaged. at
Yeah.
that point. And then we told them the basics of what is cradle to cradle, what is circularity, how can you design for disassembly? And we kind of kept it at that. And then we started implementing packaging transformation. And then we had some brave partners who were with us from the beginning and said, hey, I mean, you told me at the summit I should get rid of single-use plastic, and so I did. So someone got it done in a year, and we're like, oh, you're already done? Yeah, yeah, and it's cheaper. And we're like, okay, all other partners, do you want to join this?
Is that Wendy in the RDP team?
Oh, it's yes, of course, it's Wendy in the RDP. And what a business benefit she got out of that, right? And I'm so happy that we could help people both see cost benefits, reduction benefits. I mean, currently you could see sustainability, it's just lean on steroids. It's making money, making logic, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
being efficient.
don't waste your resources.
Yeah.
Don't waste transportation space just because you want a big packaging that looks big on shelf. Because right now, 5 years later, consumers don't want to have overpackaged items. They got it. They understand this whole thing.
I remember having that argument with a partner says, but that's just what we do with packaging. Packaging is just big because a consumer thinks that they're getting value. And I remember saying to them, well, that's the value that we put on a packaging today. Obviously, this was 5 years ago. Like the consumer's going to think differently in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, especially when you look at what's coming on the legislation side and also just kind of what the next generation is saying about sustainability. And I think what you were able to do, Sina, is because of the type of company that you are, you've got all these amazing minds and this resource. And a
Mm.
lot of your partners, are SMEs, they're smaller companies that don't have that knowledge in house. And so, on the packaging side, you kind of became a plug-in to their design team, didn't you? And
Right.
and their team when it comes to efficiencies. And it's like having a consultancy. You helped them do it and save money.
We did, but we've always, or maybe that's more me, who have always seen partnerships very close to one of our Lego promises, which is a partner promise. So it was more a collaboration than it was, I'm going to check that you've kept my brand guidelines.
Yeah.
Because again, back to what I said about the Lego DNA, it can be hard to understand, and the Lego modular system. And that is actually what we're licensing out. And we want people to create something within that system that is brand correct. So that means you got to engage a little bit deeper with them.
Yeah.
Or else they will make too many mistakes and you won't be able to approve anything. And the same thing here. I thought, well, I just want to help people. Because it's much easier if we do it together, right? And it's much easier for me as well and my team to understand, ooh, this is maybe going to be too costly. Maybe we can compromise. Can we come up with a different idea?
Yeah.
And it's always like that with design and design thinking. You run into obstacles, right? But that's okay because it's just another challenge. And you're like, the human brain is very creative and it can actually just come up with a new idea.
And I think what's great about what you've done there on the packaging side, especially, Sina, is that you've got, and also firstly that you're partnering rather than saying, we want you to do this, partner, this are the brand guidelines, we don't want you to do this, you can do this and we expect it like this, and then there's no communication. That poor partner who is working with you and probably another 200 brands is kind of stuck in the middle of trying to make a commercially viable product and get it to retail as well. You've actually sat with them and gone, okay, if this is the cost of this, how can we be efficient here? You've given them that insight to enable them to get to market and actually save money. That's what I love about this, is that your partners were saving money and reducing their impact and growing their business. I mean, if that is not a business case for sustainability, I don't know what is.
No, you're right. But Helen, it was actually a sentence you said very early on when we first met, when you were also looking at packaging, and where you said we should come together as an industry and have kind of the same guidelines, because if we each brand give the same partner who's delivering to the same retailer different guidelines and different demands, that's very unsustainable. And I was like, oh, she's so right. We got to talk together about this. We got to be agreeing as an industry. And and I think that just made so much sense. It's
Mm.
very unsustainable that things aren't more standardized or system. And that leans very well up against the Lego thought of saying we got to put system into sustainability, because that's, for example, what the plastic industry is doing. Let's figure out and agree what type of plastics we're going to put into the system, so it's going to be easier to recycle and easier to reuse,
Yeah.
and that we're going to live off those same polymers that we started out. So it's very much thanks to you and your early efforts in products of change, in pulling people together and actually demanding something of the industry. And I was very inspired by that, and I think I got my courage as well from you, to say, oh, okay, of course we can do this together.
Thank you, Sina. That means a lot, as we are, it's always hard to push water up a hill, especially in those very early days as well. And maybe that's a nice time to talk about that, because I think for a lot of people that are within this world where, what we're trying to transition how the whole of business operates.
Hmm.
That's not easy. It's hard work. And
Yeah.
you've got to find that power. And I think that power comes from people around you. We all feed each other with, I've got this bit of information, well, I can help you with this bit of information, well, let's come together and do this. And I think definitely that's what we've been trying to and have been successfully doing at POC, is actually just being a home for us all to kind of come and collaborate together.
Mm. Exactly.
And how is that? Because for me, I sit outside the companies and I try and pull everybody together. But when you're inside a huge corporate machine, that's really hard as well. I think sometimes the internal politics are harder than the external politics. How easy is that to navigate, even with a amazing central team? It
Well,
can be really
it
lonely.
helps if you've been in a company for many years, so you
Yeah.
kind of know the ins and outs of people, and you can say many companies are just walls. It's
Mm,
actually people who make a company, right? Um, and if you don't, at least that's true in Lego. I assume it's true many other companies.
yeah.
You need to know people, and you need to be brave in talking to other people and asking questions and asking why are we doing this,
Yeah.
and and then at the same time be creative about it and say, how might we then, could we, if we did this, could we save money, could we save time, could we save carbon? And then sometimes it's also just saying the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Mm,
I have a saying, if you have a strategy and you've created something and you say we got to reduce packaging and no single-use plastic, and then there was five other things you also needed to do on packaging. And I remember this, I saying, there's these five things we need to do on packaging. The only thing people remembered, no matter how many times I sang that same song, it was just, yeah, we just got to get rid of plastic. So I ended up saying, if you see plastic, get rid of it.
mm. It's got
And
to
then
be
people are like, okay,
simple.
I can do that.
It's got to be this simple, isn't it? Because again,
It's so simple. It has to be
so
simple.
busy just trying to keep their businesses operational. But
Exactly.
when you're trying to ask people to do something different and it feels complex, it is complex actually.
It
Then
is complex. We
trying to
cannot deny that. It is complex.
yeah, just trying to break it down into those simpler formats
And
makes.
and I think I've done the first 100 different PowerPoints in trying to explain carbon, sustainability, what you should do. And I remember this fantastic marketing colleague that I had, and she's seen it. I get that the planet is on fire.
Mhm,
Believe me, I also read the news. What is my five most important marching orders?
mhm,
And we're like, that is a really good question, because I'm trying to get you to understand everything
yeah,
instead of just giving you clear direction.
yeah,
And I think that's what we ended up with the whole packaging, also in POC, is saying, do this and then you're okay.
yeah.
But it's not the end, because that could be a new thing in 2 years.
Yeah. but at least it's a start, because I know that, I mean, you were one of the first companies in our industry. There was you, the BBC, the Natural History Museum, and a very few others are actually really started to contract their partners to really
Yes.
start to look at environmental. And there was also some companies that we worked with that their legal team said, we're not even touching this, because the minute we say you have to do this, we've got to be able to track it. And if we can't track it, we're responsible. So we're not touching it. But unless your partners know that you are going to take them seriously, are they really going to do it? And so I know that, you created this flexi agreement, which I absolutely love. And it's very Danish, isn't it? But I love it. And some of the
Very
American people that we work with were just like, we would never do a flexi agreement. The lawyers would hate it. But explain to me a little bit more, so
yeah.
those listening can
So
understand.
this was my two wonderful colleagues, Michael Tile and
Oh,
Jakob Hamann.
yeah.
And Michael has been with my colleague in sustainability, both not in sustainability, but in the outbound business for many years. So he knew our master license agreement in and out, but also had a you know, a contract is something we create when we're good friends and we start out, and is our intent.
Yeah.
And if we disagree, we pull it out.
Yeah.
And then we look at the fine details, right? However, if you're a lawyer, you're looking at the fine details before we even get started, and you assume the worst.
Yeah.
So we put language together in an appendix we call the sustainability appendix, and we put our intent. And it related very much to this going to 2030. What are we trying to get to in 2030, and how will we get there? And what journey are you guys going to be taking with us? And then we put language in, and it may be controversial. We put language in a little bit like you do in the Danish labor law and agreements. It's at least inspired from that. And it's saying, we want you to do this. In return, we're going to give you as much information, as much help as possible. As early as possible, we're going to secure that we are looking at the EU legislation landscape, and we're going to feed you that information the moment we have it.
Yeah.
So there was a dual kind of obligation to go on this journey together. And it was, I think we went through at least the first 18 of our contracts. People were like, yeah, we're in. Amazing. It got a little bit more difficult when we got to some of the North American contracts, where there were some lawyers who are, it's a different landscape in the US, right? How are you lawyering up? So they were a bit reluctant, but so we had to kind of agree what we meant about it. And we've also done a few iterations, but we didn't just convince people that they should do and save money on packaging, because of course that was not possible everywhere. But we did set direction for packaging, which was very clear and non-negotiable, that there was a deadline by 2025. We did set clear expectation that they should sign up for CDP. We did set clear expectation that they should source for their own operations renewable energy by 2026, because we set that in 2019. So that we were actually putting an intent down. Yeah. And I used, so you need help as the carrot and co-creation as the carrot, but then you also need the contract as the stick.
Yeah, totally.
Because else we're not going to mean it, right?
And you allowed to say how far, did you meet your 2025 packaging goals now that
Very much. There was a few partners who were struggling due to retailers not being actually in agreement.
Wow.
So we also realized a few years ago, God, we got to talk to the retailers, because if they don't start demanding lesser packaging or lower use of single-use plastic, the partners will be stuck in between the demands and the retailer demands, and will be like, retailers won't buy my product if it's not wrapped like this.
Yeah.
Like, why are you pushing me to do this? Yeah. So we also had to compromise or give exemptions. We didn't do that, and we don't want to do that. But we are, of course, saying extensions. How do we get the market to keep up? And of course, in this, you can say the consumers are not backtracking. In the geopolitical situation we're in, there are certain retailers, certain states,
Mm.
countries that are backtracking a little bit. But come on, it makes sense to get rid of plastic. I mean, it's floating around the ocean. It's the biggest issue we have with our wildlife,
Yeah,
and we're eating microplastic. I mean, it's coming from somewhere, and
exactly.
it's a shared problem. We need to solve it.
But also, we know that when we talk to people that a bit like RDP and some other amazing companies out there that are doing great work, when they are reducing the plastic down as much as they can, they are also benefiting from it across the rest of their business.
100%.
What about so CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Program? I guess this is you then going down the path to try and get an understanding of the impact of what your partners are doing. And
Mm.
I know that we did a load of work. Oh my gosh, 5 years ago, looking at the flow of impact data within the industry, and it's amazing to see, just the technology that's come about, but also the challenges that are still there within the industry. Tell us a little bit more about that carbon piece, and then maybe we'll lean into a challenge that you put forward to us as an industry as well, Sina.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, everybody, when you come out of Cambridge and you say, where do you start with your sustainability journey? You got to understand what your impact is. That means dig out the data, get as much data as you can, no matter how spreadsheet it is. And everybody's working in spreadsheets because there is no real system yet that does it all, right?
And there's some free data out there, isn't there? You can get an
Yes, yeah, yeah,
understanding
yeah.
spend base, kind of your
Average emission data is very available, right? It's not a big secret, and AI is helping us tremendously.
yeah,
Um, you know, pull some of these very complex data sets together. But um, just to get partners engaged in actually providing data, and I was at the belief where saying, give people data or give Lego data, but Lego needs to put data back to you because the real action sits with the partner. So if there's not a proper feedback loop,
yeah.
you know, we're not going to do anything.
Yeah, because what are you
Um,
doing with that? How does it help the partner? If you're asking all the time, but there's nothing going back to them to help them, it's just another
they're
demand
just
on the partners.
they're just throwing things in a big black hole and never hearing about it,
Yeah.
right? And so you could have, so for me and for us, it was very important that we were helping the partners understand their impact
Mm.
and finding some tools that could give them an immediate response. Pretty much I would just wanted to provide them with a calculator.
Yeah.
And maybe the calculators now, this was 4 years ago, so oh my god, time has passed,
I
right?
know.
And now AI can probably help.
Yeah.
Now it's maybe mature enough, but back then it was definitely saying, okay, so how big is our impact
Yeah.
in reality, and how much can we impact it by doing something different, making different choices? And then we were creating one version of how that could be, both how we were calculating, and then we started looking into this greenhouse gas protocol. And I think I spent 2 weeks in the office in the UK on these big boards with a carbon specialist, really trying to understand, what data do we need? How are we calculating it? How is it reported? What are the details we need? How often do we need it? What is in, what's not in, and everything do you calculate from the cotton plant all the way to the t-shirt is thrown out again if it's made out of cotton, or do you stop at the factory gate? And what are these different methodologies?
Mm.
And it was just so complicated.
Yeah.
And then I remember you and I met in London, right? And we're like, Helena, we got to talk to some of the other ones that, this is complicated. Do you know anyone? Do you know anybody who has digital systems, or what are other people doing? How far is Disney on this? How far is Hasbro
Yeah.
and Warner and everybody? How far are they on this? Because we got to get started. But if we do it alone, it
And also, we don't want everybody to go off, you're going to do it your way, somebody else is going to do it their
no,
way. And then the poor partners in the industry who
again.
mostly work with everybody, is just the confusion then is 200-fold.
Exactly. And then of course people give up, because and that's probably also where the whole pushback and to the EU legislation coming in, and why the omnibus had to simplify the rules, and give people longer,
Yeah.
because it's not just something you do.
Yeah. So for for those, so the WRI, which is the World Resource Institute, they basically have a rule book, don't they, on
Yeah.
for carbon accounting, on kind of what you would add to a carbon report, and there's rules of kind of where that comes in and out from, and we're a bit of a funky industry, aren't we? So I know that when you then started going in detail with the team of kind of, okay, well, what data are we going to ask for? How do we report it? What is in scope? What is the threshold of data? You were getting stuck, weren't you, with a kind of, there was a lot of debate on where we sit, where brand licensing emissions sit from a brand owner's point of view, because you're not producing the product yourself.
Exactly. If you look into the protocol as it is today, and we know it's now under revision because, of course, we gave an input. But as it sits to now, if you're a license owner or you're licensing out anything, it could be medicine, it could be a non-physical goods.
Yeah.
But if you're brand licensing and you're selling T-shirts or video games, there is no clear description. The example that's put in is from if you own a McDonald's and you're licensing out a restaurant, this is how you account for it. And by the way, you should also account for the biggest impact driver within the restaurant being the beef.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so not the chairs, not the light, not the, if you are McDonald's, the owner of the brand. So that was a bit vague. And that's when we started talking, and where I at least got the pushback to saying, well, we're not going to just do the Lego only be doing the perfect thing and do the minimum. And as Lego is good quality, and we also want to be fair and square to everyone, we also wanted to understand, well, what's the right way to do it? And for me, anything that has to do with KPIs or data or goals, the number is not really the important thing. It's the action, and it's the change that it drives. So how could we drive a change where we know what we need to do, right? We need to make things out of lower carbon material. We need to have shorter route to market. We need to have renewable energy. So we know what you need to do. But when you get into accounting, it gets super complicated, and it needs to be right, and the data needs to be auditable, and it just gets super complicated. And it needs to be traceable and verified by an accounting company. So suddenly it becomes a much more, and that's where we realized. I think we were in London, you and I, right? We were in a meeting and just kind of realizing, saying, why don't we just do an industry methodology that works for us? And then you had been in contact with someone in the auto industry and said, yeah, that's actually how they did it. Or it was when we were in LA, right?
Yeah, we did, with Jamie and the team. They're like, well, we help these guys do this, and the finance sector's doing this, and the auto industry's doing this.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, if we're a brand licensing industry, then we should have our own. If we don't fit anywhere, then we need our own methodology. And then that's where this huge body of work started, really, from the end of 2023, but it took us all of 2024 to do it, didn't it, Sine? And we had 33 brands that came and were part of that, from the whole of the Disney Carbon team, talking about diapers, for us having a debate about whether, if you have a Minions license for the movie with a Minions sticker on a banana, whether the banana is in scope or out of scope, because the banana would have been made anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and all the way to Man City, who have been tracking their carbon for 25 years. What Pete's doing there is amazing. And actually, how they're really going that next step further. So it's super fascinating when you really start to dig into what other people are doing.
Exactly.
And where we have it, we've got this methodology, which is now waiting for approval.
Exactly. And it was such a strong piece of work that we did together with South Pole, that I had, we're coming back to that piece of work, and I don't think anyone has described the licensing industry business model in such detail as we now have done for the carbon piece, because we had to explain the industry. we had to sit down and explain it to someone who didn't know so that they could also write it up. So we have now 80 pages that describes in detail the
It's quite
license changes.
amazing. It's an amazing body of
It
work.
is. It
So,
is.
I know
Um,
that at the minute we heard from the WRI only last week, and we know that the first round is happening, and we think brand licensing might sit in a totally separate category, category 16. But we also know that all scope 3 is being reviewed, so we
yeah,
get reviewed in that scope 3 review. So it's going to be interesting to see where that nets out, and hopefully
exactly.
keep everybody posted on that. So, and then on the renewable energy piece, Sina, have your partners moved forward on that? Have you influenced them to go and
Yes, yes. I mean, of course, there's some companies who are part of bigger companies, right, where it could be hard to do, or where they are um, located in countries where it's not generally available.
yeah,
But now here we are, 2026, and right now we are at a tipping point where renewable energy in most countries are cheaper
yeah,
than fossil-based energy, right?
yeah,
Um, and so it's really, really exciting. And who does not want to source the cheapest energy?
yeah. Again, it's one of those things where now having a more sustainable choice benefits business and planet, but the business comes
Yeah.
first and the planet comes second, but it's still affecting it. And so, kind of that takes us to, because I know I've taken up lots of your time today, and I know I could talk to you forever because there's just so many interesting things that you're doing. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall in most of your day, Sina, but obviously I can't
I'm
be.
not sure it's that interesting.
Oh, but
But
then
we try to have fun.
well, I said, well, also you've got to. I mean, to me, this is one of the most rewarding and one of the most schizophrenic jobs in the world, because
Yes.
one minute is so exciting, and the next minute you're thinking, how am I going to get past this problem? And I know that you have similar on a daily
Oh,
basis.
God. I mean, you get a bit schizophrenic, and you need to be a very positive person to work in sustainability, because you got to keep going,
Yeah,
right? You got to constantly find that energy to convince people to say, and that's not just because it's sustainability, because everybody cares about the planet,
yeah.
there's nobody who really says, no, I just want to have fossil fuel and screw it up. Well, somebody might.
I was going to say, I'm not going to say anything.
No. But basically, everybody would like to have a livable planet for
Yeah,
their children in the future,
yeah,
and not burn every summer, and watch everything be scorched. So, but change for human beings are so difficult,
it's really
and
tough.
we're basically not prone to change. We like, you know going in a similar direction. So those of us who then are okay with change, we also got to get our energy somewhere from. So I get positive energy out of seeing some of my colleagues mention something
Mm,
in a presentation. If they have sustainability, or I can feel that they've thought about it differently,
yeah,
then I get really, really happy. And that's really my biggest award, is I can, if a leader or colleagues are starting to use some of my words,
yeah,
which means, okay, 2 years later, it clocked.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's great. And where partners are coming to us and saying, like, you're really doing the right thing here. It's tough,
yeah.
and we know we're pushing back, but please keep going. But should we not just hear this issue here I have? Could we be a bit flexible here? And of course, we need to be flexible. Um, but sometimes you also just have to hold your horses and say, no, this is how it is.
Yeah.
And for me, I've been lucky that I know that I have a family ownership
Mm,
that is so concerned about the planet, and they're willing to put the money where the mouth is,
yeah.
and they're not willing to compromise very much. So I have that backing.
Mm,
Um, and I know not everybody's that fortunate.
yeah. No, yeah, I mean, you're right, because we've had some conversations with others where they're just like, how do I even, you might have an advocate within a company and they've got to push that agenda forward. So, to have that backing is amazing.
Yeah.
So we think of,
Can I say one more thing? Because that might be, I do think right now, and this is also based on some of the work and a report that was done by Cambridge Institute of Sustainable Leadership. Um, is that we kind of have to speak differently about sustainability. And that's why I'm saying it feels to me a bit like lean on steroids.
Yeah.
It's optimization, it's efficiencies, it is using the cheap, somewhat not the cheapest material, but the best material that can loop many times, where you are setting yourself up for success, but you are also in your manufacturing line. If you take the whole social part, sometimes it's actually also great just to create jobs, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to be 1 billion extra people on this planet, and we all need to eat and play and have fun and have healthy livings and a living at a certain level.
Mm.
Uh, and so that's a responsibility. It's not just about making the cheapest product or making most products or selling most. It's about having a balance.
Yeah.
But being efficient about it, the resources we have.
And I think we need more business leaders to understand that and to see that actually business is really there to support society. That's why those businesses
Exactly.
exist. And so if you're giving back to society at the same time, then then your business should flourish. And we've seen that within a lot of the data with how B Corps are driving forward. So
Exactly.
Sina, we've had the most amazing conversation of the last 6 years. My last question would be, if you were to look 5 years ahead, and we were to sit down in 5 years' time, and we to look back at the answer to your question today, what would you like to see? So, what would you like to have seen fundamentally change with how our industry operates in 5 years' time? Because actually, a lot has changed already in 5 years.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean,
yes.
look at the difference in conversation that we're having. It's so different. Sustainability has moved from the hippie in the corner to rooted into a lot of companies' business, core strategy. So what would you like to look back on in 5 years' time and be like, wow, that really happened?
You know what? I would love if sustainability language and understanding was just part of how we speak.
Yeah.
If we look at how AI have evolved within a year,
Mm. It's
and
crazy.
how sorting our trash has evolved within the past 3 years,
Yeah.
it has gone on warp speed, right?
Mm.
So if I'm out of a sustainability job in 5 years and just doing what I did before,
Yeah.
but with the sustainability lens on,
Yeah.
then I think we've done what we need to do. I think we were told 5 years ago in that CISL course, we are trying to create the leaders we want
Yeah.
and the leaders we need
Yeah.
with this material. That's our mission, because we need leadership to change things.
Yeah.
And I think if I could just, in my colleagues and friends and business and read whoever, because I'm seeing it in children. I mean, come on, these kids are getting it at school. At kindergarten knows how to use AI, how coding, come on. If you're not with this program, you should just move.
Yeah.
Move out so that the younger generation can get along and create products and life in a sustainable future,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
they get it.
Yeah, they do get it, and it's going to be so fascinating. I love it. I I'm looking forward to when we get to 2030. Most people have 2030 goals. By then, we would have had 10 years of this journey. You would have been on the journey just over 10 years
Mhm.
on your sustainability journey. I would have, from Nat Geo before to here. It would be really amazing to look back and actually just see how fundamentally industry has changed within that time and how efficiencies, doing things with lower environmental impact, building circularity, all these new businesses that are going to pop up.
Mm.
It's going to be quite magical to watch that, though we got the pain, some of the pain to kind of go over in those next 5 years. So let's see, Sina. We'll hopefully be
Yeah,
still having these conversations in 5 years' time where maybe AI will just magically pop it all out there rather than having us to edit it after this. So let's
maybe,
see.
maybe.
Thank
Let's
you
see.
so
But
much,
but it
Sina.
still needs humans, no matter what.
It does.
And it still needs people to change, or else but they just move slower. I think those sustainable development goals is a harder one to. I'm not sure we're going to succeed
Mm,
getting there with all of them unless we really pull our socks up
yeah,
these next 5 years.
yeah. But I do feel, there is a shift in momentum. It's just whether the shift is enough to get us there. But I think, we're trying. We're all very trying.
Exactly.
We
I
are.
mean, renewable energy is cheap, so
Exactly.
now we just need to change all the products and the materials so we're not polluting the world.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We've got to be optimistic.
Yes,
Sina,
yes, yes.
thank you so much for your leadership, your
Likewise.
creative thinking. What you've done for this industry over the last 6 years is phenomenal. Lego licensees that I talk to tell me that they are sustainable because they're a Lego licensee. That is
Mhm.
how that
I'm
they're
very proud.
proud. They're very proud of that. And more so, thank you for your friendship, Sina.
No,
It's amazing to be on this journey with you, and thank you for being our very first guest on this new podcast series. So
I'm very, very honored. Thank you so much. And you're not getting rid of me anytime soon.
I hope not.
No,
Here's to an exciting 2026.
it's going to be great.
Yeah,
It's a year of hope.
it definitely is. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye bye.